Hello, I'm Daniel, and welcome to the Emunah Project. I'm going to share with you a couple more Mishnahs with respect to the concept of wisdom and knowledge, balancing with deeds, actions, mitzvahs. These are from the third chapter of Pirkei Avos. These are rabbis of the Mishnah. And the rabbi we're going to be talking about today for these two Mishnahs is Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. In Mishnah 11 of the third chapter of Pirkei Avos, the ethics, the teachings of the fathers, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, anyone whose fear of sin takes priority over his wisdom will endure. But anyone whose wisdom takes priority over his fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure. As we've said in previous videos, the purpose of Torah study, the purpose of gaining knowledge and wisdom with respect to the will of God is directed toward our practical life. It's not knowledge for the sake of knowledge, although that is also, admirable. We know in order to do. So if you have a lot of Torah knowledge, which is great, if you have a lot of Torah knowledge, but you don't match that and exceed that through your life, through your actions, through your deeds, through the performance of mitzvahs, that knowledge is going to be fleeting. It's the mitzvahs, it's the living the godly life, that will cement the knowledge, that will make it practical. And by doing it, you retain it. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, if you don't do that, if your deeds don't exceed your knowledge, you run the risk of losing the knowledge, because that's what grounds us. That's what we're here to perform mitzvahs. We're here to live good, godly lives, and by doing so, we are a Kiddush Hashem. We are a sanctification of God's name. So the very next Mishnah, Mishnah number 12 in chapter 3 of Pirkei Avos, he being Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, used to say, anyone whose good deeds exceed his wisdom will endure. But anyone whose wisdom exceeds his good deeds, his wisdom will not endure. This is the other side of it. The fear of sin. It's the mirror image of the fear of God. Fear of God will match with fear of sin. It says the beginning of wisdom is the fear of sin. The fear of heaven, fear of God, is the beginning of wisdom. Yiras Hashem, Bereshis Chachama. Fear of God. I don't mean be afraid like you're afraid of the boogeyman, but being in awe of God, and also the corresponding feeling of fearing sin, and matching that with good deeds. All that stuff has to exceed your knowledge. This is, and again, I've said this before, and I cannot stress this too much. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn. I'm not saying you shouldn't get wisdom. Chas v'sholom, I'm saying you should. But they have to be at least matched. This wisdom, this knowledge has to be at least matched by action. Many times I've said, don't be a cardiac Jew. Don't be a cerebral Jew, a cerebral Noahide. It's fine to have them in your heart, fine to have them in your mind, but it has to translate into action. You have to translate this into literal mitzvahs, the performing of commandments of God, or in a more pedestrian sense, good deeds. You got to walk the walk, as the saying goes. And if you don't, if it's just academic, you missed it. You're missing the point. The point of us living is to live. That's the whole reason we have a physical world, to do mitzvahs, to improve our midos, our good qualities. That's the reason we're here, to obey God and to make ourselves better, to improve ourselves, and in so doing, making the world a better place. Tikkun olam, repairing the world. So we have, again, these two Mishnahs from chapter 3 of Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, anyone whose fear of sin takes priority over his wisdom will endure, But anyone whose wisdom takes priority over his fear of sin, his wisdom will not endure. Next Mishnah 12, he used to say, he ben Chanina ben Dosa, anyone whose good deeds, anyone whose mitzvahs exceeds his wisdom will endure, his wisdom will last. But anyone whose wisdom exceeds his good deeds, somebody who knows but doesn't do, or doesn't do enough, his wisdom will not endure. In each of these cases, he loses both. He loses out on his good deeds and his mitzvahs, and in so doing, he loses his wisdom. He doesn't retain it. The retention, apparently from the Mishnahs in Pirkei Avos, especially Chanina ben Dosa, by living the life, by doing things, by putting things into action, this grounds and cements the wisdom you have. By doing, you retain. You have knowledge in order to do, and doing then retains the knowledge. And as long as your good deeds exceed your wisdom, as long as your yiras Hashem, your fear of God, your fear of sin, exceed your wisdom, you're going to be in good shape. We're going to be doing more videos along this line. Please come back. Please watch. Please learn. I hope they're being of some help to you. Until then, on behalf of the Emunah Project, I'm Daniel, and thank you too much.